Shalom. Uh, you know, welcome to Biblical Hebrew Lesson 3. Hebrew Phonotactics, including in a doggish lay versus a doggish forte, vocal versus silent schwas, and other type stuff. So once again, I have a reminder, a review of Lesson 2. That you can't read because I put it in a yellow that you can't read on the white background. And no, this will not change throughout the video. I will keep it so that you cannot read. So anyway, we have kamat along a, patach along a short a tsere along a sarol, which is a short e, chirik, a short e, Honam along O, Gevutz, a short U, the schwa, which is just the schwa, Chirik, a long E, well, Chirik Yov, a long E, Honam Wa, U, a long O, Shuruk, a long U, reduced patach, which is somewhere in between on and reduced sarol, which is somewhere in between and and the diphthong I, the diphthong I, the diphthong A, the diphthong A, the diphthong A, the diphthong A, the diphthong L, the diphthong L, the triphthong Ale, and the triphthong Ale. That is what we went over with Nikud. And remember, Nikud are read after the letter they're on. So once again, with like say it's under a mem, the would be pronounced first. So, I guess into phonotactic stuff. In the next video, we'll finally get into grammar. I really like Hebrew grammar. So, I'm excited. Okay, so first we will start with something in the other type stuff. Remember last time I said that there was that there's one exception to the rule that vowel point is always read after the letter it's on. Here's that exception. If you take one of the letters that is a pharyngeal fricative, like cheth or rayin, and put a patach under it, and it's the last letter in the word, the patach will be read first. For example, ruach. Ruach is the Hebrew word for wind or breath or spirit. So, yeah, and it has a cheth at the end with a patach underneath. And the patach is read first, it's ruach. And another example, this one will actually have both one for rayin and one for cheth. The name and title of Jesus. We get Yeshua. We got Yeshua HaMashiach. So, yeah. Both the Rain and the Cheth have their patach read first. So, we are going to talk about syllabilification, and I'm going to demonstrate something on the word syllable. So, syllabilification is putting a word into its syllables. I think it might actually just be syllabification or something. I don't know. I'm just going to go with syllabilification. So, syllable, we know what sounds are in what syllables, but if you didn't know, we could have it be syllable, or we could think it could be syllable, or syllable, or, you know, many more ways to syllabilify it. Like, we could have syllable, or whatever. But Hebrew is very easy to tell what sounds are in what syllable. Hebrew has a syllable structure of consonant, vowel, consonant. C's are consonants, V's are vowels. Parentheses shows that they are optional. If we do not have a beginning consonant, we use the letter aleph. And if we do not have an ending consonant, then we just don't write a letter for one. For example, we have the word davar, the Hebrew word davar, which means word, matter, or thing. It's syllabilified like this. We have consonant, vowel, and consonant, vowel, consonant. If a letter has a nikud on it, that letter is the beginning of a syllable. Except for if it has a silent schwa, but we haven't learned about those yet. That will be later in this video. I think, oh, my hand is bleeding for some reason. Oh, well, who cares? So, you know, that's easy stuff. If it's got a nikud, it's the first letter in a syllable, and if it doesn't, it's the last letter in a syllable. And it's pretty easy to syllabilify stuff, which will be helpful for later. So, now that we know how syllables work, we will now talk about Dagesh fortes. Dagesh fortes are similar to Dagesh lenes in appearance. So, like, we already know how Dagesh lenes work. We got, like, Daleth, it goes Z, but we put the Dagesh lene in it, it goes D. So, but a Dagesh forte makes you pronounce a letter twice. It geminates it. An example of gemination in English, even though we don't write anything special for it, the word unknown. The word unknown, which I wrote poorly, I'm going to write it better. Unknown has two n sounds in it, actually. So if I write it in the IPA, we will have unknown. This apostrophe is used in the IPA to show the difference of syllable. It's put in between syllables. So we have two n sounds, unknown. And when we put a Dagesh forte in a Hebrew letter, you know, it will do that. It will make it be pronounced twice like that, at the end of the syllable before and at the beginning of the syllable after it. Now, before we talk about that, there are 5 letters called gutturals that I kind of forgot to mention were gutturals earlier. They're called that because they're made in the back of the throat. Our first one is actually aleph. It's silent. Except, technically, it can make the glottal stop, but it's just easier to say that it's silent, because it is. So, aleph is a guttural, hey is a guttural, chef is a guttural, rain is a guttural, and sometimes resh is a guttural. We got a really funky asterisk to show that it's only sometimes. It sometimes chooses to be a guttural, sometimes chooses not to be a guttural. Anyway, the thing about gutturals is that they cannot take a doggish forte. They cannot be geminated. Resh does follow these rules. So Resh is a guttural in this instance. But first, to show how I have not mentioned yet how to tell a doggish forte from a doggish lene in a letter that can take a doggish lene. So here's the thing. I do not actually see why doggish lenes are written. I don't see why it would be useful. There are simple rules for telling when a letter should have a doggish lene or not. But I will teach the rules about... I'll teach the rules about when it should be a doggish lene or not, so that's easy to understand the rules for when it should be a doggish forte or not. So simply, if the previous sound is a vowel sound, it should be doggishless. For example, we bring back up the vowel. Still write doggish lenes because most Tanochs use them. Thing about it though, this is a funky little looking bath. So this one, the previous sound is a vowel sound. It's this gamats. Therefore, the bath does not have a doggish lene at all. But this one, well, by default they kind of have when you begin like a paragraph, it's going to have a doggish lene because you started speaking. But if the previous word ends in a vowel, like let's say I have ki, which means because or surely or truly or for, it ends in a vowel sound. So the doggish lene in daleth is going to disappear. That is actually how it works. So, with that in mind, we can tell the difference between a doggish lene and a doggish forte in a word that can take a doggish lene. Once again, if it is after a consonant sound, then it is a doggish lene, because how is it even going to be in the previous syllable if the previous syllable already ended with its one consonant? But let's take the example. Havbayith. Havbayith means the house. It has a doggish forte because the previous sound was a vowel. And when the previous sound is a vowel, it cannot have a doggish lene anyway. So if we see a doggish in a letter that can take a doggish lene after a vowel, it has to be a forte. So we have hav, and we pronounce the first one as if it's after a vowel, because it is hav, but now we have a consonant at the end of the first syllable, so the second one we pronounce with its doggish lene sound. So hav bayith. Hav bayith. It's very simple. Sorry that yellow still doesn't show up good on camera, even though it actually shows up really well in person. But still, I'm not changing it. I did red for the first video, I did orange for the second one. We're going in rainbow order because why not? Okay, so now that we understand doggishes, we will now talk about silent versus vocal schwas. The schwa is actually often silent even when written down. Why it's written down, I don't actually know, but I'm not upset by it because the rules are simple. So, if a schwa starts a word, for example, yalavim, We have a schwa at the beginning. Yalavim means children, by the way. So, it's at the beginning, therefore, it is pronounced. Let's see if I can still adjust. I thought I adjusted this to be better. Okay, I guess that's as good as we're gonna get. So, if there are two schwas in a row, the first one is silent and the second one is pronounced. For example, let's go with let me think of an example. Okay, so I could not think of any good examples, so I had to cheat by looking at the book I learned Hebrew from. This was my primary source for learning Hebrew. So yeah, I had to steal from it. There is actually some inspiration from this book. I am teaching things in the same order as the book teaches them, but I am just going to improv it. I haven't been scripting anything, as you could probably tell from all the ums. So yeah, we're just using its examples for schwa rules. So, mishpate means my judgments. But as we can see, we got mishpate. Now, this one is silent, and therefore doesn't really count as a vowel, so this is still the end of a syllable. This sheen is still the end of a syllable. But this one is silent, and this one is vocal, and that's how it's always going to work when you see two in a row. And my book's example for our next thing, what happens when a schwa is under a dogged forte? They use the word that means the kings. And this counts actually as two schwas in a row. After we pronounce the mem in its second syllable, we pronounce the schwa. So this is ham malachim. Ham malachim. So, yeah. Now I do not think I'm going to need to pull out that book during a video for the rest of the thing. But something to note is that a guttural cannot take a schwa, a vocal schwa, that is. It can take a silent one, but it cannot take a vocal one. So whenever, in any conjugating, you would need to put a schwa in one. It would become a reduced patach. However, reish can take a vocal schwa. It does not need to have a reduced patach. It can take a schwa. See, that's what I said about reish only sometimes being a guttural. Also, you might have noticed that this just kind of disappeared. I forgot to say that, and I ended the video. So I turned it back on, and now I told you. Anyway, we are going to now, be done with that, and we are going to talk about vocabulary. I told you I was kind of basing this off the book, and I agree with it that first we should start with proper nouns, because they are generally similar to the English forms, although not always. You'll see what I mean when I have it written down. Okay, so something that I realized I forgot to do, is show the rules for when a schwa is silent. If it's after a short vowel, it's silent. If it's after a long vowel, it's vocal. So, yeah, keep that in mind. And I think I might have also forgotten to say that the letter he at the end of a word is silent. So, like, you vowel over here, the H, the he at the end is silent. So you probably can't see this very well, but we have Abraham, which is Abraham. See, the schwa is silent because the vowel is short. So we have Abraham, which is Abraham. Aharon, which is Aaron. Greek doesn't have an H, so that's probably why he was removed. So David is David. The w became a v because in Greek it was delta, alpha, epsilon, iota, delta, which is pronounced David, but epsilon is like the form of wow, so in Greek, but it's pronounced David, so that's why. Yehuda is Judah. So over here, I'm not sure how well you can see. What if I bring in the camera? So as you can see here, we have Yod He Waw He as the divine name. I did not write vowel points on it because we do not know the vowels. Our best guess is Yahweh, but we don't actually know. Oftentimes, the vowel points of Adonai, which means my lords, are put on it, which it starts with a reduced pathach, but instead they put a schwa under it, and it's Yahovah. And in modern Greek, wow becomes changes its name to vav and goes v. So we have Yehovah to Yehovah, and as you'll see, Yov gets changed to J in English a lot, so it became Jehovah. So that's where that comes from. It's a combination of the divine name and Adonai. Anyway, yeah, the reason that Yod became J a lot is so Yod became Iota in Greek, and in Latin it became I, but I and J were not separate letters in Latin, so all the biblical names just for some reason went with the J when they entered English. So next, after the divine name, we have Yehochanan. I don't actually think Yehochanan appears in the Old Testament. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but it means John. So Yehonathan. Yehonathan means Jonathan. And then we have Yehoshua, which means Joshua, and Yosef, which means Joseph. And next, we have over here Yaakov. We have Yaakov, and Yaakov is Jacob. Then we have Yitzchak. See, it's a short vowel, so the schwa is silent. Yitzchak is Isaac. I have no idea why there's two A's in it, or where the T sound went. So, Yerushalayim. I'm so good at pronouncing things today. So, Yerushalayim is Jerusalem. Sometimes they remove the yod, but still somehow keep the chirik, even though it's not how writing works. But yeah, just look out for that. So next, did I actually show Yerushalayim? I wasn't actually looking at the screen. Anyway, Yahoo is Jeremiah. Sometimes the U at the end will be gone, so it will just be Yermaya. But Yermayahu. That's Jeremiah. So anyway, Yisrael is Israel. So, here's a name that's definitely not going to appear in the Old Testament. Yeshua. It's Jesus. So, you don't actually need to know the Hebrew name, but a lot of people might want to. So, Canaan is Canaan. Now you know why there's two A's. Mitzrayim is Egypt. Mitzrayim sounds nothing like Egypt, and that doesn't matter. So, Moshe is Moses. The reason that the sh got lost for a s is, well, Greek doesn't have a s, so it became a sigma, which became, an s, and in Greek, ending something in e would make it feminine, so it had to be Moses, so it became Moses. And Reshala is Esau, and Paro is Pharaoh. So I actually have 4 more, I just couldn't fit them on. Okay, so for our first of the last 4 words, we have Zion, which is Zion. In Latin, the letter Z made ts, even though it was never used. So, yeah, that's why it became a Z. Okay, so the name Shaul became Saul. You can see, Shaul, Saul, you can understand that, especially knowing that Greek didn't have an SH sound. Okay, so Shalomo is Solomon. Once again, Greek didn't have an SH sound, and this is in what would be the accusative case in Greek, because it would need N after that, well, N. Okay, so time for the last vocab word. Okay, the last vocab word is Shamuel, which is Samuel. I don't really think there's anything that needs explaining here. So yeah, that's the vocab words. If you really don't want to memorize the proper nouns, you'll find them when reading the Bible and learn them then. Obviously, memorize like all the other words in all the later lessons, but for now, you don't actually need to memorize anything if you don't want to. If you do want to, you don't need to memorize the names that aren't in the Bible that I all specifically mentioned weren't. So, yeah. Shalom, God be with you, and before you watch another YouTube video, go out and do something nice for someone. Make their day. You can do it. I believe in you. God made you for good. You can do good.